Most individuals spend their lives expecting for things to get easier. They wait for the job to be less difficult. They wait for people to comprehend them. They wait for the economy to turn, for the strain to lighten, for the stress to pass. And the more they wait, the more powerless they become. The problem with that approach is simple. It places everything outside of you. It puts your peace in someone else's hands. It places your evolution on someone else's timeline. It connects your success to conditions you don't control. And deep down, you know that never works. Because life doesn't get easier. It just changes. It moves. It shifts. The challenges get more complex. The stakes get bigger. The demands escalate. And if all you've created is optimism that the pressure will let up, you're setting yourself up to break. You cannot shrink your way into strength. You cannot wish your way into power. You cannot wish your way into the version of yourself that is built to carry the weight that's coming. And this is the transition, the mindset shift that turns individuals from victims into leaders, from passengers into drivers, from wishers into laborers. You stop asking for ease and you start asking for growth. You stop saying, "Why is this happening to me?" and start saying, "What can I construct from this?" Because the truth is, it's not supposed to be easy. Growth demands resistance. Progress demands pressure. If it were easy, you wouldn't become more. You'd stay the same. And that's the one thing you cannot afford to do. If your primary goal is to avoid pain, you'll avoid progress too. If your primary concern is comfort, you'll sacrifice your potential. Because comfort does not generate character. It does not sharpen your edge. It does not scream out your awesomeness. It basically keeps you where you are. You've felt it before. The frustration of wanting more yet staying the same. The stress of knowing you're capable of more yet doing just enough to get by. The emotional regret of understanding you've been watering down your own existence, expecting it could feel lighter if you played smaller. But the path doesn't become lighter. You get stronger. And the moment you stop wishing the road would move and start adjusting yourself, that's when everything starts to change. This isn't about pretending things are easy. It's about getting honest about who you need to become in order to bear them. Because life will always take more from you than you believe you're ready to offer. But the reality is, you've always had more inside you than you've let out. More discipline, more drive, more resilience. More wisdom, more hunger. You just haven't been pushed to put it all out yet. But pressure has a way of dragging out what comfort hides. And that's the invitation. To stop hoping life softens and instead choose to sharpen. To stop asking for fewer difficulties and start building greater problem solving. To stop looking for a simpler road forward and start becoming a better version of the one who walks it. Because better isn't about being perfect. It's not about having all the solutions. It's not about never falling. It's about refusing to stay down. It's about staying coachable. It's about getting past your pride and asking, what can I learn right now that will make me stronger tomorrow? That's the mindset that separates the good from the great. It's not that their lives are easier. It's that their thinking is sharper, their attitude is stronger, their vision is deeper. And because of that, they rise even when it's hard. So no, don't wish it were easier. That wish leads nowhere. That wish keeps you inactive. That wish keeps your strength hidden. Wish instead for strength, for clarity, for grit, for skill, for better. And then get to work becoming it. Getting better isn't about knowing more. It's about doing more with what you currently know. Most folks don't need another plan. They don't need further counsel. They don't need reminders of what they should be doing. They need to act. They need to stop using preparation as a delay technique and start moving into execution. You've read the novels. You've watched the talks. You've taken the notes. And yet something still feels stuck. Not because you don't know what to do, but because you haven't completely committed to accomplishing it. That's the difference between progress and stagnation, not knowledge but action. Growth demands discomfort. It demands repetition. It necessitates performing the thing you've avoided so often that it's become a habit. And that habit isn't simply behavior, it's identity. Every time you choose not to push, you support the perception that you're someone who avoids hard things. And that's where change begins, when you stop negotiating with yourself, when you quit creating excuses for why now isn't the time, when you quit explaining your delay with your schedule, your circumstances, your exhaustion. Growth begins when excuses end. The only reason people stay stuck is because they keep letting themselves to. They say they'll start Monday, try harder next month, be more disciplined after things settle. But nothing settles, nothing magically becomes simpler. Life doesn't pause. So why are you? There will never be a perfect time. There will never be a day when all your energy aligns with all your plans and your circumstances open a path. That's not how it works. You build yourself in the chaos. You become stronger amid the muck. You sharpen your concentration in the noise. You don't wait for peace. You make it. You don't wait for space. You carve it. You don't wait to be motivated. You show up and let momentum take over. Because the best don't count on motivation, they count on commitment. And that commitment is what drives change. When you stop waiting for easy, you start becoming genuine about who you need to become. And that honesty is rare. Most people don't want to look at their habits. They don't want to question their effort. They don't want to face the mirror and ask, am I really giving everything I've got? Because the answer stings. It compels you to face your own compromise. But that encounter is where better begins. You can't change what you won't face. You can't soar above patterns you refuse to break. And you can't become outstanding while holding on to the habits that kept you average. This is the real work, the part most avoid. Not the doing, but the reflecting. The point where you strip away your stories, your reasons, your history, and ask one thing: what standard am I genuinely living at? It's not about what I talk about, not about what I write down. It's about what I live, every single day without fail. And if you're being honest with yourself, you'll see the disparity. You'll observe where your words exceed your actions. You'll observe where your expectations don't correspond with your preparedness. You'll find your vision hasn't been matched with the necessary action. That gap isn't failure. It's an invitation. It's a roadmap. It points you exactly where you need to grow, where you need to create, and which parts of yourself require development. Not punishment, not humiliation, just growth. Because you're not broken, you're unfinished. And that's a powerful place to be. Being unfinished means there's still more to create, more to explore, more to become. But it only happens when you take ownership of your development. When you stop blaming your situation and start growing your capacity. Capacity is what distinguishes the mediocre from the exceptional, not comfort, not perfect conditions. Capacity, the ability to keep going when it's tough, to adapt when everything comes apart, to stay locked on when distractions are all around. That's what builds remarkable lives. Not talent, endurance. And endurance doesn't come from hoping. It comes from doing. From standing up one more time than you want to. From grinding out one more rep when you think you can't. From turning up when every part of you wants to quit. That's how you stretch your limitations. That's how you develop beyond them. You've got more in you than you've accessed, more grit, more strength, more clarity, more courage. But you won't see it until you breach past comfort. You won't feel it until you stop playing it safe. And you won't unlock it unless you decide, I don't want it easy. I want to be better. Better means more disciplined, more accountable, more focused, more driven, more resilient. Not because life granted you those attributes, but because you built them. Because you trained them. Because you chose to stop avoiding discomfort and start using it. Discomfort is the gym for your potential. It's where your edge is sharpened. It's where emotional control is forged. It's where you prove, over and over, that you are more than your constraints. Every time you confront discomfort and push through, you become more. That's what real growth looks like. Not the highlight reel, not the applause, not the performance. It's the quiet, hard, unglamorous work, the hidden sacrifices, the early starts, the late grinds, the moments where you say no to ease and yes to what strengthens you. So, no, don't wish it were easy. That kind of wish is soft. That kind of wish waits. That kind of wish makes you a victim. Instead, wish for the strength to climb, for the wisdom to learn, for the fire to keep going, for the mindset to grow, no matter what. And then, live like that wish has already come true. Getting better isn't about being hard on yourself. It's about being honest with yourself. There's a difference. One breaks you down, the other builds you up. One derives from guilt, the other grows from purpose. One says you're not enough, the other says there's more in you. Let's go find it. People often confuse self-compassion with comfort. But real compassion isn't letting yourself off the hook. It's holding yourself to a level that reflects your potential. That means you don't beat yourself up when you fall short, but you also don't ignore it. You face it. You learn from it. And you move forward. There's strength in that kind of ownership. The strength to say, I dropped the ball, but I won't remain down. The strength to say, I didn't show up how I should have, but this moment doesn't define me. What I do next does. That kind of power isn't fakeable. It's formed by choosing what's right over what's easy, time and again. And every time you choose what's better, you train yourself. You reprogram your thinking to respond differently. You quit making excuses. You cease hiding behind diversions. You cease waiting to be rescued. You cease blaming your past for your present. And you start doing the work that puts you in control. Control doesn't come from outer success. It comes from inner alignment. From understanding that your behaviors represent your ideals, that your behavior fits with your aims, that your life is a product of your effort, not your circumstances. That's what it means to be in control. And when you're in control, you move differently. You hold yourself differently. You quit seeking continual reassurance. You quit needing things to always go your way. You stop stressing when plans shift or people fall short, because you've molded yourself into someone who adapts, someone who leads, someone who improves no matter what. That's what real confidence is. It's not loud. It's not always charming. It's steady. It's quiet. It's based on proof. The evidence that you've shown up, that you've been tested, that you've walked through storms, and you're still standing, still going forward, still evolving. Confidence isn't the absence of insecurity. It's the refusal to let insecurity drive the ship. It's realizing that fear doesn't get to select your future. Your choices do. Your sentiments don't control your destiny. Your decisions do. You'll constantly experience doubt. You'll always have fear. But when your standard is growth, those sentiments don't paralyze you. They sharpen you. They remind you that you're expanding, that you're not playing small, that you're entering unexplored terrain. And that's where the breakthroughs happen. Most individuals retreat when the route gets confusing. They pull back. They wait to feel assured before they act. But confidence doesn't come before action. It's born from it. You don't wait to feel ready. You move with intention. You think better. You behave with purpose. And over time, confidence joins you there. You train oneself to lean in, not back. You train yourself to get curious, not frozen. You train oneself to adapt, not escape. Because the only way you grow is by doing what you've never done, by confronting what you used to avoid. Avoidance is the enemy of growth. Every time you dodge suffering, you educate your mind it's harmful, your world shrinks, your capacity narrows, your prospects don't vanish. They just get locked behind your own dread. You reclaim your power the moment you stop avoiding, when you quit procrastinating, when you stop numbing and start tuned in, when you face the task that scares you, the conversation that pushes you, the routine that disciplines you, the process that humbles you. You stop hunting shortcuts. You stop seeking for simple outs. You cease fantasizing about fast transformation. You dig in. You commit. You ground yourself. You say, I will not be moved. Not because you're invincible, but because you've determined to be unbreakable. And when you live like that, When you stop waiting and start working, your universe grows. You become someone others can count on. You become someone you can count on. Your fire grows, your identity strengthens, and your life ceases being dominated by circumstance. Circumstances don't define you, your standards do. Two people can suffer the same storm, one emerges stronger while the other crumbles. The difference isn't the storm itself, but what they choose to do amid it. That's why you stop longing for an easy road, because you know ease doesn't build you. Struggle does. Pressure does. Resistance does. And you don't just survive it, you use it. You use every setback to stretch your patience, every obstacle to increase your resolve, and every delay to deepen your determination. This mindset, this continuous quest of growth, doesn't make life simpler, but it makes you stronger. It makes you concentrated. It makes you powerful, not against others, but against the part of you that used to give up, that used to break under strain, that used to believe someone else would save you. You've stopped outsourcing your change. You've quit blaming others. You've stopped pointing fingers. You've told yourself, if this is going to change, it starts with me. If you want a better life, you have to develop a better version of yourself. That perspective shifts everything. It's no longer about, when will it get easier? But about, how can I get better? It's not about, who will solve this? But, what am I going to produce next? That shift is the difference between living small and living strong, between being at the mercy of life and mastering it. Getting better isn't just about intensity, it's about consistency. Anyone can show up with energy for a day. Anyone can give their all for a week. But growing better isn't about one-time achievements. It's about what you can do every day. Even when it's boring, even when it feels tedious, even when it doesn't seem interesting. Consistency is what makes you formidable. It divides exceptional achievers from others who continually beginning over. It's the difference between building momentum and stagnation. If you only show up when it's easy, you'll never develop something that lasts. But if you can show up every single day, especially on the days you don't feel like it, you become unstoppable. And that consistency, it's not innate, it's built. You cultivate it like a muscle. You create it by making and honoring promises to yourself. You create it by choosing action over excuses, especially when those reasons feel reasonable. People often talk about motivation as the key, yet motivation is merely an emotion, and feelings change. Discipline, however, is a choice, and decisions shape your identity. When you stop asking yourself how you feel and start reminding yourself who you are, you stop riding emotional roller coasters. This is how you level up, by elevating your floor, not your ceiling. Your worst day grows better. Your baseline habits improve. Your minimum effort generates higher returns. That's what happens when you stop relying on emotions and start depending on execution. You stop asking, what do I feel like doing? And start asking, what has to be done? That's the shift. That's when you stop being a hobbyist, a dabbler, and start operating like a professional. Professionals don't wait to feel fantastic. They migrate because it's who they are. You become a professional when you stop seeking external accountability and start holding yourself accountable. You perform the task because your standards demand it, not because someone else is looking, not because the settings are perfect, but because your identity is embedded in the process. In the process, it's not always glamorous, it's not always exciting, but this is where the real magic happens. Repetition generates reputation, repetition builds skill. Repetition generates trust in oneself. If you can conquer the ordinary, you can master your future. But most people get bored. They start strong but diminish fast. They expect progress to feel like fireworks, but true development feels more like brushing your teeth. It's about turning up, doing the work again, learning again, correcting again, without needing plaudits, without pursuing novelty. If you can learn to appreciate that rhythm, to embrace the boring, and to fall in love with your discipline, everything changes. Because suddenly results become inevitable. They're simply a matter of time. This is why consistency generates confidence. When you're consistent, You're not hoping to succeed, you're expecting to. You're not wondering if it'll work, you know it will. You've done the work, you've seen the proof. You've built the evidence. Confidence comes from evidence, tracking your activities, knowing you're putting in the reps. Not just sometimes, but every day. Especially when it's inconvenient, when it's unglamorous, and when no one else sees it but you. And that's what most people miss. They want the reward without the routine. They want the harvest without the habit. But the people who actually grow are the ones who commit when it's challenging, who continue when progress is slow, who ascend when it's quiet. Because growth isn't always evident. Progress isn't always loud. Sometimes the most powerful transformations are silent. They happen in alone, when no one's watching. If you need attention to stay constant, your growth will always be constrained. You have to be able to fuel yourself. You have to develop a system that works even when you don't feel like working. There will be days when you're fatigued. There will be seasons when outcomes are slow. And if you haven't created the habit of showing up anyway, you'll break when things get real. But if you've trained yourself in constancy, if you've shown up long enough to develop a foundation, you won't break. You might bend, you might stumble, but you'll continue in the fight. Because you're not motivated by hype, you're grounded by habit. The deeper those habits go, the more unshakable you become. You stop relying on energy and start relying on structure. You stop waiting for momentum and begin to create it. You stop needing external approval and start owning your own standard. That's how you get from a good season to a fantastic life. That's how you stop living in cycles and start living with purpose. That's how you get from talking about change to becoming the one who causes it. You don't need more excitement, you need more follow-through. You don't need more permission, you need more consistency. You don't need easier circumstances, you need stronger behaviors. And those habits are created brick by brick when you decide to show up, no matter what. Getting better isn't just about what you do, it's about what you quit doing. You don't just add more, you delete what doesn't belong. You cut out the excuses. You eliminate the distractions. You let rid of the behaviors and beliefs that no longer benefit you. The circumstances that no longer promote your progress are the ones you need to leave behind. Progress typically occurs through subtraction. It's not about doing everything, it's about doing the right things. And that often means streamlining, saying no to decent opportunities in order to focus on the great ones. It involves eliminating off energy drains that slow you down. You can't move forward at full speed while carrying dead weight. Most individuals don't progress not because they lack drive, but because they refuse to let go of what's holding them back. They remain faithful to their limitations, stuck in their comfort zones, and cling to their excuses. But you can't hold on to what's breaking you and expect to become what will build you. At some time, you have to make a decision. You have to ask yourself, is this habit helping or hindering me? Is this relationship expanding or limiting me? Is this pattern creating momentum or confusion? Growth isn't just about knowing where you're headed, it's also about comprehending what can no longer come with you. You can't live in two identities. You can't be dedicated and casual at the same time. You can't be disciplined and inconsistent. You can't be all in while being halfway there. So you make the tough choices. You simplify. You cease tolerating what you've been tolerating, because what you tolerate, you reinforce. What you accept, you support, and what you normalize, you live. The more you simplify, the more concentrated you become. You stop wasting energy managing turmoil and start utilizing your efforts to construct what actually matters. You stop chasing 100 things and start performing on the ones that matter most. That delivers speed because your focus is clear, your priorities are plain, and your environment mirrors your ideals. Your life moves with power, not because you're doing more, but because you're doing what genuinely makes a difference. You don't get better by taking on additional strain. You get better by reducing the noise, by creating space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to act with intention, and room to grow without distraction. That space isn't idleness, it's leadership. When you create space, you create clarity, and when you're clear, you move with decisiveness. You cease second guessing, you cease spinning in place, you execute. Execution is what produces change, not intention, not inspiration, but execution. The ability to say, "This is what I said I would do, and I did it," over and over, no matter the weather, the mood, or who's watching. That's how you create trust, first with yourself, then with others. That's how you establish real confidence. Not from praises, but from regularity. Confidence derived from ability, from action, from integrity. Doing the hard things when no one's watching. The more you live this way, the more you realize you don't need to publicize your metamorphosis. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to convince anyone. Your life becomes the message. Your example is the proof. That's what happens when you get better. You start leading by presence, tempo, and principle. You don't push people, you pull them forward by how you live. By turning up fully aligned, you increase the standard. Yes, it can be lonely sometimes. Not everyone is headed where you're going. Not everyone will understand the decisions you make. But the moment you stop needing to be understood, you begin stepping into true leadership. True leadership isn't about being liked. It's about clarity, conviction, and being the one who steps out first. It's about doing the work, setting the tone, keeping firm, and never faking it. As you grow stronger, the more responsibility you carry. But this obligation isn't a burden, it's an honor. It implies trust. It means you've become someone who can carry weight, who can lift others, and who can hold steadfast when others want to stop. That's the prize of growth. You don't simply better your life, you make it possible for others to climb as well. Not by forcing them, but because your life represents what's possible. So you keep boosting your standards, simplifying your path, and sharpening your execution. You let your example speak for itself. No hoopla, no noise, simply daily constancy and quiet perfection. Getting better doesn't happen by luck, it happens by planning. You must decide on the foundation of your life, because if you don't build it on values, discipline, and clarity, life will construct it for you, and it won't be what you want. If you don't choose your route, someone else will. If you don't set your priorities, the world will do it for you. If you don't set your standards, you'll default to someone else's. And this is how most people live, not from weakness, but from a lack of clarity. Getting better starts with getting clear, not only about what you want, but about what you stand for, what you refuse to allow, the kind of energy you welcome into your space, the effort you give in your job, and the discussions you engage in. You develop your life with every decision. Every time you hit snooze or wake up early, every time you indulge or train, every time you speak truth or stay silent, every action is a vote for who you're becoming. If you want a better life, you need to cast more votes for the version of you that lives with purpose. Not occasionally, but regularly, especially on days when you don't feel like it, especially when it's inconvenient. That's what distinguishes the devoted from the inquisitive. Curiosity moves when it's easy. Commitment moves when it's hard, when it's uncomfortable, when results take time, when no one is cheering you on. That's where true growth happens. You don't become great by talking about what you'll do. You become great by doing it. By translating words into acts, inspiration into structure, and potential into discipline. People often talk about potential, but potential means nothing if it's never achieved. It's not where you start that matters, it's how you finish. And to finish strong, you need a method. You need habits. You need a system that doesn't bend when life happens. That system is established through your rituals, your non-negotiables, the things you do every day, regardless of how you feel. The anchors that keep you grounded when life throws its storms. You establish these anchors through practice, honesty, commitment, and the resolve to show up at your best, even when you're not at your best. That's where true growth happens. When you discover this, you cease being governed by circumstance. You stop being tossed around by emotional storms. You cease relying on external motivation and start moving from a deeper, more consistent source. That source, its purpose, goal, and standard. You recall why you started, who you said you'd become. You remind yourself of the task you committed to, and that mission becomes more important than your attitude. That's how champions are made, not in comfort, but in devotion, not in hype, but in hunger, not in passion, but in execution, again and over, without fail, without apology. If you want to alter your life, you've got to change your pattern. Your life is your pattern, your results are your pattern. And until the pattern changes, the outcomes stay the same. Change your decisions, change your direction. Change your direction, change your life. And it starts with one choice, one move, one moment where you stop waiting and start working. The job will never feel flawless, and it will never be clean. Growth is messy, it's raw, it's fraught with frustration, doubt, and failure. But that failure isn't the enemy. It's evidence that you're trying, that you're moving, that you're in the game. Failure refines you, it doesn't define you. It educates you where you're weak, shows you what you missed, and strengthens your humility. If you learn from it, it becomes a step, not a stop. You don't rise in spite of your failures. You rise because of them. You rise because you refused to quit. You rise because you learned, adapted, and kept showing up. And that's what getting better looks like, not perfection, but progress. Not pretending you've got it all figured out, but remaining in the fight until you do. Not being the smartest or the fastest, but being the most committed. Better isn't something you reach. It's something you live. It's not a destination, it's a decision. And it's a decision you make again and again, on sleepy days, slow days, lonely days, and on days when everything inside you wants to coast. Getting better isn't about a finish line, it's about remaining in motion. It's about knowing that you're never done, that there's always another layer, another level, another edge to polish. That fact doesn't discourage you, it fuels you. Because you're not here for easy, you're here to grow, to build, to lead. If you're serious about it, you have to understand this. The moment you stop growing is the moment you start slipping. The second you relax your standard is the second everything begins to rot. That's why this work never stops. That's why you can't afford to drift. Not in your habits, not in your thoughts, not in your attitude. Drift is subtle. It doesn't announce itself. It sneaks in through distraction, delay, and minor compromises. And if you're not watchful, you'll wake up weeks or months later wondering how you lost the fire, how you lost the edge, how you stopped showing up the way you used to. The answer will be simple. You let go of the standard. That's why you recommit every day. You get up and say, today I show up better. Today I get sharper. Today I execute. Not because yesterday wasn't good enough, but because better is a lifestyle. It's your identity today. You stop chasing finish lines and start developing infrastructure, the habits, the systems, the mindset, the framework that keeps you strong through every season. The way you eat, the way you train, the way you prepare, the way you communicate, the way you recover. This is the cornerstone of greatness. It's not founded on hype. It's not fueled by emotion. It's constructed on structure, on non-negotiables. It's anchored in the quiet routines that go unnoticed by many, yet felt by all. Because when you're strong within, you don't crack under pressure. You don't break when life throws a blow. You don't fold when things don't go your way. You bend, you adapt. You adjust, but you don't crumble. And that's what this is about: resilience, durability, and staying power. The ability to remain consistent, regardless matter the circumstances. That's actual power. That's real leadership. Because people are always watching you. Whether you realize it or not, they're monitoring how you move, how you carry yourself, how you respond to pressure. And if you can stay strong when others waver, you become the standard. You become the anchor. That's the outcome of living with this mindset. You cease needing to impress anyone. You start to make an impact. You stop seeking attention, and instead, you command respect, not by asking for it, but by embodying it. And when that happens, You automatically attract individuals who want to grow, who want to build, who want to polish themselves too. Your circle shifts, your environment changes, your influence expands, because you didn't just improve, you established a life that reflects that growth. But none of this happens unless you remain devoted to the job, unless you keep showing up, unless you constantly upping the bar, even when things are going well. Especially when things are going well, because comfort is where progress goes to die. When things get easy, most people ease off. They calm down, they relax, they celebrate. And while rejoicing isn't the problem, complacency is. It's the belief that you've made it, when in reality, you've merely scraped the surface of what's possible. The instant you stop expanding, you begin shrinking. The instant you stop learning, you start slipping behind. The moment you stop sharpening yourself, you start dulling. That's why better must always be constant. Not because you're not enough, but because you know there's more within you. You've experienced your potential, and you're reluctant to live beneath it any longer. Because mediocrity doesn't seem comfortable anymore, it feels suffocating. So you keep pushing, you keep developing, you keep perfecting every area of your life. Your focus, your routines, your boundaries, your inputs, your priorities, your recoveries, your discussions, your thoughts, your energy, everything. Because when everything you do fits with the standard you've committed to, your life becomes a masterpiece. Not because it's perfect, but because it's intentional, built brick by brick, based on who you are, not who you pretend to be. You don't need a new life. You need a fresh version of yourself. That's the fact most people avoid. They spend their days chasing something different, a different career, a different relationship, different aspirations. But the actual transformation happens when you become different, not in a superficial sense, but in a profound and powerful way. When you improve, everything else improves. When you adjust your behaviors, your results follow. When you modify your thinking, your reality changes. When you improve your standards, your surroundings transforms, your relationships evolve, your energy sharpens, your life mirrors the work. People often talk about the law of attraction, yet before attraction comes alignment. You don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. And if your life is full of strife, distraction, and disorder, it's a reflection of what's inside. It's not because you're unfortunate, it's because that chaos is still within you. The way to fix things isn't by pleading for something different, but by becoming something different. Every morning, ask yourself, what would the best version of me do right now? Then take action. Not perfectly, not flawlessly, but consistently. That version of you isn't a fantasy. It's merely buried behind the habits you've accepted, the patterns you've repeated, and the comfort you've held to. You don't need to hunt for it. You need to discover it. And you do that via pressure, honesty, discipline, action, and decision after decision. It's about refusing to settle, not coasting, not pretending, and not performing for others while under-delivering for yourself. You're not doing this to impress anyone. You're doing it because you refuse to keep disappointing yourself. You're doing it because you're wary of breaking commitments to the one person who matters most. You. This is what self-respect looks like, not just discourse, not just intention, not just affirmations, but follow through. It's about conduct that resonates with your beliefs, energy that matches your vision, and a life that reflects your values. The more you live this way, the stronger you grow. Not loud, external strength, but silent strength. The kind that doesn't flinch, doesn't seek approval, just outcomes, just impact, just alignment. From that alignment comes tranquility. Not the peace that comes from ease, but the serenity that comes from knowing that even when it's hard, you're handling it. You're growing through it, and you're becoming better because of it. That's a different existence, a rare one. The kind where you don't need a break from yourself. The kind where you don't regret gazing in the mirror. The sort where you can sleep peacefully, knowing you didn't shrink, you didn't settle, you didn't fake it. Living this way means you stop waiting for permission to dream big. You cease asking for approval to live boldly. You stop asking minor questions and begin chasing bigger challenges. Not to prove yourself, but to stretch yourself. You stop dreading failure because you've learned that failure is not the end, but the beginning of something better. Every time you fall and get back up, you get more belief, more wisdom, more resilience. Failure stops being your enemy. It becomes your ally. It's part of the rhythm, the reps, the process that sharpens your edge and develops your determination. Failure without quitting is called learning. Struggle without quitting is called building. Discomfort without quitting is termed growth. And right now, you're experiencing all three, so keep going. Even when progress feels slow, even when it's imperceptible, even when nobody notices. Especially then, because that's when you're being fashioned. That's when your identity becomes unshakable. That's when your fire burns stronger, not flickers. You stop waiting for breakthroughs and start building them. You stop wishing for possibilities and start preparing for them. You stop hoping for the proper people to emerge and start becoming the right person. Because that's what changes your life. Not wishing for things to be easier, but deciding that you'll get better, to smarter, sharper, stronger, not someday, but right now. Not in theory, but in action. It was never about life being easier. It was always about you becoming stronger. Not because life is unjust, but because life is a test. And you're not here to avoid the test. You're here to pass it. You're here to climb beyond it. You're here to become who you were always intended to be via it. So stop shrinking. Stop negotiating with discomfort. Stop begging for easy. Make the decision. The genuine one. The kind of decision that transforms how you walk, how you think, how you exercise, how you lead, how you live. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop hoping for the perfect energy. Stop making excuses sound heroic. Weigh and replace it with one word: better. Every single day. Better. Not perfect. Not flawless. Better. And better is something that's built. It's built in the moments you don't post about. In the reps no one shouts for. In the choices no one sees. In the way you talk to yourself when no one is watching. In the pressure you carry without complaint. In the boundaries you set, even when it's easier to cross them. That's what changes your life. That's what alters your identity. That's what builds legacy. Not noise, but constancy. Not hype, but depth. Not waiting, but working. Not wishing things gets easier, but deciding you'll be the one who gets better. And the moment you embrace that perspective, everything changes. Your troubles don't disappear. Your struggles don't evaporate. But you face them differently. You stand taller. You bear a new presence, a new emphasis, a new standard. And others feel it, not because you're loud, but because you're assured. Not because you expect respect, but because your life needs it. Not because you're attempting to prove anything, but because you've finally stepped into everything. And that's the true reward, not just the results, not just the wins, but the quiet awareness that you didn't run. You didn't quit. You didn't make excuses. You didn't look for someone to save you. You became the one who rose, the one who endured, the one who built. And that's who you are now. The one who doesn't wish for less, since you know you were built for more. The one who doesn't pray for easier ways, because you've committed to becoming better. The one who doesn't settle for the path of least resistance, since you know the harder road leads to the highest version of yourself. So take that enthusiasm into your next decision, into your next meeting, into your next workout, into your next challenge, into your next awkward talk, into the next opportunity that scares you, into everything. Carry this voice in your head, your voice, not mine. The one that says, you've got more in you. Don't settle. Don't run. Don't make it easier. Make yourself better. Because better isn't a moment. It's not a day. It's not a feeling. It's a way. It's a beat. It's a decision you remake until it becomes who you are. Until it's no longer something you attempt to live up to, but something you refuse to live beneath.